Our next story is about Mozilla. This is interesting. Mozilla was hit with a privacy complaint in the EU over Firefox tracking tech. So we covered this story. Mozilla rolled out something called privacy preserving attribution. It's basically their version of Google's privacy sandbox where, we're going to do privacy preserving analytics and share them with certain ad companies, but we're going to anonymize the data and, whatever all these excuses are. And also, we're not going to tell anybody that we're rolling it out. People are just going to happen to stumble upon it in the setting. Like, for those who have been missing this, I'm not bad faith arguing here. This is exactly how it happened. It's like they didn't tell anybody. Somebody found it in the settings. People called them out on it. And they were literally basically like, oh, well, we don't want to ask users to have to make that choice with a pop-up window the way that Brave does, for example. We think that's just too much to ask of users. So instead, we just opted everybody in, but they can go find it in the settings and then turn it off there if they want. But it's totally privacy preserving, even though we just bought an ad company 2 weeks prior to this. We're going to basically anonymize the data and share it with advertisers, which, again, we've covered before that anonymizing the data is arguably not a real thing anyways. Actually, I come from the default of it's not a real thing. You have to convince me it is, but I digress. So this comes from Noib, who is a European nonprofit that stands for None of Your Business. Their hobby seems to be just calling out everybody for the slightest crappy thing, which I'm okay with because usually they're going after big tech companies and I don't have any sympathy for them. Noib argues that this is misdirection. If EU privacy regulators agree with the complaint, the Firefox maker could be slapped with orders to change track or even face a penalty of up to 4% of global revenue. So Noib argued that in essence, the browser is now controlling the tracking rather than the individual websites. And while this might be an improvement compared to even more invasive tracking methods, the company never asked users if they wanted to enable it. Instead, Mozilla decided to turn it on by default once people installed a recent update. Another component of their objection is that Mozilla's move doesn't replace cookies either, because Firefox simply doesn't have the market share and power to shift the industry practices. So all it's done is introduce yet another way for websites to target ads. The privacy rights group also wants the regulator to order the deletion of all data collected so far. While Firefox users are able to opt out of the tracking, they must take an active step to do so by locating and enabling the relevant setting, which Noib says is tucked away in a submenu. And quick personal note, at thenewoil.org, I do list recommended settings changes on Firefox and Brave, so you can find it over there if you're curious. Noib says it's a shame that organizations like Mozilla believes that users are too dumb to say yes or no. Users should be able to make a choice, and the feature should have been turned off by default. Mozilla said that they welcome the opportunity to engage with stakeholders, its own community of users, and regulators as it builds out the technology. They said that the initial code for PPA was included in 128, but it has not been activated and no end-user data has been recorded or sent. The current iteration of PPA is designed to be a limited test only on the Mozilla Developer Network website. So they're basically arguing look, it's still in beta, it's still in test run, we haven't actually shared any data with anybody. I agree with Noib. And I'm sure you picked up with my explanation. I don't agree with the way Mozilla did this. I think it was super shady, and I think Noib makes really good arguments. So personally, I'm hoping that they will win this complaint. Mozilla will have to turn this thing off by default, and will have to delete whatever data they've collected so far.
Thanks for watching this clip. It's actually taken from the Surveillance Report podcast, which is our full-length podcast where we talk about privacy and security news every single week. We post it on YouTube as a video. We also post it on PeerTube for those of you who don't like YouTube. And we also post it as an audio version that you can find on every major podcasting app, as well as just RSS. Check us out either here on the screen somewhere or at surveillancereport.tech, and stay up to date out there so you can keep yourself and the people around you safe.